to Jung at Harp, episode number 189. What does it take to live and play from the heart? I'm Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian Psychoanalyst in North Carolina, and I am here with Deborah Henson-Conant, a composer, performer, and educator. We both play the harp, and that's why we call this Jung at Harp. Almost every week we come together to dialogue about a question that has some energy for us and hopefully for you. And if you're joining us live, hopefully you're on a platform where you can put in comments and we'll then see them and you can be a part of the ongoing dialogue. As well as afterwards, you can find us on YouTube and all of your most favorite podcast apps. Yeah, that's a new thing for us. We're still remembering we're on podcast apps now. I am. I'm curious about how do we support ourselves in living and playing from our heart when there's so much coming at us all the time about how we, quote, should live and should play. And so I'm curious what may come up in our conversation that might help me as well as extend outward to all of our viewers and people we come in contact with.
Kathleen, the way you phrased that question opened up a couple things for me that I'd love to share. And two things came to my mind right at once. One was Temple Grandin and the way who is an author that helps animals and about how putting cows into chutes and what will stress them and what will not stress them. And by curving the chute so they can see where they're going, they become unstressed. And it also reminds me of the other thing that popped up into my mind that I knew but hadn't thought of in this exact realm is that I have this academy where I teach people how to improvise. And for 10 years, the class that's been sort of the flagship class is called Hip Harp Toolkit. And the tools included a form that I taught people to play in and different ways to play within that form. And I found that people could understand what I was saying. They would get from sort of understanding the foundation of it, getting to basic functionality, but they weren't getting from functionality to fluency. They weren't getting from fluency to flexibility. They could see it. They could see, oh, I see how you could work. And they were getting to freedom, but I wasn't seeing them get to freedom with that structure as quickly as I was seeing them get to freedom with other structures, like the snippet technology. It's not technology, it's just like what I do. And then I built a little app. Not an app, the way I built a website, just a web page, but I built it in such a way that instead of me saying, look, here's this structure, here it is on paper, and here's all the things you can do with it, which I now realize people were like, whoa, because that freedom doesn't come from, here's all the things you can do with it. Freedom, because you said in our lives and our playing. And so in ourselves, freedom doesn't come from having unlimited possibilities.
Right.
And so I created this little tool, and I can actually show it to you. I might be able to show it to you in a second. That only gives one possibility at a time. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm not sure that I can. And yeah, I can actually. And I'll just show you. And what's been really interesting is this limitation of somebody saying, of the form, you decide how you're going to use it. But it's like, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. So these are the things that seem to be giving them freedom. And let's see if I can share my screen. And then I'd love to see what you're seeing here. So this wireframe is the shape that I've shown them over and over again, but it was on paper, not on the web. It was not interactive. These little things, this intro, if you click it, it takes you to this section. If you click this, it takes you to this section. The exploration, it takes you here. This takes you back. So you realize, oh, I see, I go back. and this takes you to the ending. Within those, I put all the things I've taught people. There's nothing new here, but I put, here's all the interchangeable, not all, but certain interchangeable things you could do. You could play a gliss as a beginning. You could play sixth or thirds and a pattern. This is still kind of rough, but so that you do it like that. And then like, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to choose to play simple melody here. And what am I going to do? I'm going to build notes down from the top. And I don't have all the videos and stuff in here yet, but you can kind of see how it works. What am I going to do for my exploration? I'm going to pick something. I'm going to pick this progression, which people they just happened to learn this in the improv now in the 5-day challenge. So this is something they already knew. And then finally the kerfuffle, which is the easiest ending. It's just this kind of silly ending. So then that lets you be like, okay, all right, I'm starting a tune. Great. I play my dominant note down here and I gliss. I go up, I go down, I go up, I go up. If I want, I can come down, 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 and then come up. I click this. Oh, now I'm going to play this tune. I see. And all I'm doing is playing that big letter with my left hand and that with my right hand. But I could add sixths below it. As soon as that, there's so much more music there. So there's two things they could do after they do that. Okay, I've done that. I did it. I might not have done it perfectly. Doesn't matter. Done. Now I can do arpeggios. This might not be stylistically correct, but I'm just doing arpeggios. And I can do that as many times as I want. Then I click this. I'm like, oh, got it. Do that. I'll just do the end part again. So I imagine that I played this whole thing. Okay, kerfuffle. All right. And I'm doing that. So I'm playing it. So this, for some reason, having it, I click it and I see that's where I go. I click it and I see that's where I go. I click it. So what's been really interesting, wait a minute, are you seeing that? Okay.
I am. Yeah, I am seeing it.
Okay. So what's been really interesting with it, how do I get the back of it here? Stop sharing. Okay. What's the biggest thing that's been interesting to me is that instead of me saying, so do you see, you could have all kinds of different possibilities. What's happened is people go through this and I say, what do you get from this? And they're like, oh, wow, I could use any tune in this. Oh, wow, I could use anything here. And I see that they've gone from, I have to remember how to do this. I have to remember how to do this right. And I have to go from that picture and the things on the page to this. They've gone to, wait a minute. And I just realized something. Now now they're not making the decision. They've made the decision ahead of time from possibilities. Contain them. Now they can think about just doing it. And now they've shifted into being able to engage in the performance, the fun of it. At first, they're just, oh, how do I do this? It's the function, they understand, oh, yeah, I get how it works. Okay, now I'm functional. Now I'm going to do it, 10 times. And then one thing that was really interesting to me is one sort of fledgling student said, okay, well, how do I get flexible with this? And I was like, okay, you get 10 M&Ms, you put them down on your desk. You go through it, and I walked her through it. We really actually played through it. You do this, 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 eat an M&M. You do this, 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 eat an M&M until you've eaten the 10 M&Ms. You're done. Click it off on your practice thing and go on. And I just realized there's all these mechanisms. My brain is like going like this. I'm like, oh, wow. mechanisms can help us. Tools help us.
Mm-hmm.
Machines help us if we know how to use them. And this is such a simple machine that you see how it works, and it is doing some of the thinking for you. You know, and blah, 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 my brain is now like, yeah, but then when you get to AI, that's also a machine. Yeah, but the thinking level is so complex that it no longer helps in exactly the same way, helps in a different way. But something about this very simple mechanism of choice, bizarrely shows you at a certain point, and seemingly very quickly, that you don't need it. That's what's so powerful to me. The machine itself shows you how simple the structure is, something I've been trying to teach for 10 years. So, help.
Well, you know what? I love that, by the way. I had not yet seen that, so I'm going to go explore it. You know, one of the things that occurs to me is you've taken all of the pieces and put them together in like a do-it-yourself, build-it-yourself kind of kit, where you have this little package that is, so this little package is the foundation of what you're going to build. This little package has all of the, the pieces for the kinds of shapes you can make. You've put together these little packages that make it easy for people to see, oh, they're interchangeable. Kind of like with the Legos, you can build whatever you want. And you've kind of grouped things together. And there's also a visual. I mean, part of what I responded to when I immediately saw it is I thought, oh, there's the visual. It's a roadmap, but it's a fluid roadmap. It's not a this is the only way roadmap.
Right.
And
Right, because you could go, and it's also very tactile. You touch it and you go.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking eventually, after someone does this, I don't know how many times, a couple of days, one day they're going to be like, well, wait a second. How come I have to only go back there once? What if I went back there?
Yeah, right.
And then you're like, oh wait, this is a toy. This is why we're playing. That's why it's called playing. This is a toy.
Right. And one of the things that I love that I think for me speaks to what it takes to live and play from the heart is your suggestion about get the 10 M&Ms and go through all 5 parts, put together a toy with all the different component pieces, then have a reinforcement for it. Have an M&M. And then do that again. And have an M&M and reinforcing. And it's what I call in the embodiment circle, building a muscle. It's like, how do you get to flexibility? Well, to get to flexibility, you have to become fluent. And to become fluent, then you have to develop a fluency with the functionality, the functional pieces. Yeah. And so we all think, oh, well, I can't get there, but we don't do what amounts to going to the gym and building the muscles. And there's no way we can avoid going to the gym and building the muscles.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be gym, just saying. It doesn't have
to be. Metaphorically speaking. Right. So, I mean, you have, in a way, it's a little bit, it reminds me of the landscapes that you provided, the sound landscapes to improvise with.
Call it the creativity gym. Right.
Yeah, and you call it the creativity gym.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been toying with this, and as you were speaking, I realized my 2 not favorite toys, but 2 moments of my life as a child, really small child, 2 moments in which I saw models of the world that were really valuable was this little flip book. I've talked about it, the one that had the 3 parts. So there's an alligator in 3 parts, a policeman in 3 parts. So you can be like, oh, alligator, policeman, ballerina person. What does that feel like? But it wasn't just a fun book. To me, it was a model of the world. Like I looked at that and I was like, so that's how it works. So that's how the world works. You can change a component and actually change a different person or a different thing. And then the second one, which I've talked about ad infinitum, is the moment just when I learned the 3 chords on the ukulele, and when the model of the world was, a new model was, you can make a shape with your hand. You can make a shape with your hands, and it can bring an instrument alive. And this means shape creates music, and this means I have a relationship with this thing. And the big thing that comes out of this is I become a person with agency, with musical agency. And the experience that I had from getting those chords to the next moment was I was a person who had to have somebody else play music in order for music to be played. And the other side of that, a moment later, was I was a human being who could play music for myself and others. And that, I mean, that's a transformative moment. And it took a second, and it didn't mean that I was a virtuoso. It meant I had gone from a person who had to be played for to a person who could play for myself and others. And it was such a profound thing that I feel like in this, I'm like determined to pass this on. As tiny as a thing as it was what gave me freedom. And I feel like in this little machine and in kind of what I'm doing, I'm able to pass it on. And this week, I remember somebody said something, and I can't remember what it was, but I just had this moment of like, the gift has activated in someone else. That gift that I got at 7, I did it, I made it. And so anyway.
Yeah, but I think what you're talking about is when that creativity, when we have a sense of our own creativity, that comes from our heart. Jung says that creativity is an instinct or a psychological factor, which means it's innate within all of us. And so in that moment, you felt your own expression. You felt a resonance within your body, mind that was you, And
what I'm thinking is I'm just realizing that one of the things that happens to adult learners is they have already put a model in their head of what it means to be an adequate or a viable musician. And so even when they get that functionality, on the one hand, it's, oh, wow. And then that also starts creeping in. But is somebody going to make fun of me? Is somebody going to laugh at me?
Right.
So Kathleen, being in an academy, being in the academy where people are learning how to see the magic of this and see the gift in others seeing the magic of this, they're able to feel the gift of it without, part of the work that we're doing is clearing out every week, clearing out that stuff that's stuffed in our head. But what else? This is no new question, but in that moment when we have the wonderment of like, oh, I can do it. And then the next moment comes, but it's not really that good.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing, lifelong issue because shame, which means I'm not good enough, is an innate affect. It's an innate emotion that we're born. It's just kind of part of our hardware wiring.
Why?
So you'll have to ask the creator that question. I don't know, but the developmental psychologist, all consistently say that there are certain affects, emotions with strong body activation that are observable from infancy. And
was anybody ever born without it? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, so from a Jungian perspective, everything has both a life-giving aspect and a life-thwarting aspect. And the goal is really to mediate it. So, so I think that all affects, all emotion does have a life-giving aspect to it, but left unmediated, and particularly with shame or guilt, if they are toxic, if they're monstrous proportions, then they're highly destructive because they annihilate any sense of self. They annihilate one's own heart. It's interesting that we went to, what does it take to live and play from the heart? Because throughout the ages, the heart has been associated with the soul and the subconscious self, with what Jung would have called the self with a capital S, the totality of psyche, our essence. And the heart also in the Eastern system is mediates between the upper three chakras and the lower. So it's a place where all of the energies of who we are kind of come together and find a natural order. And so part of what we all have to do is we all have to get enough in sync and in tune and respectful of our own natural order that we know that what we're doing has value, even if someone else dismisses it or thinks that it's whatever in a negative way.
What I'm hearing you say is that believing ourselves and our work to be of value makes us, I don't think this is what you're saying, but I'm seeing this is kind of a result. It makes us kind. It makes us be able to listen to others. It almost seems like when we don't think what we are and what we have is a value, then the only way we're listening to the world is, do I have value? Am I good enough? It's almost like there's a chamber where we can't hear anything from the outside.
Well, and that kind of belief that I don't have value or worth, or what I offer doesn't matter, leads to all kinds of defensive maneuvers, of hiding, of distorting, of trying to imitate and be what we aren't. And, and so then we lose any possibility of truly knowing ourselves or really knowing someone else. Ultimately, we all have to get it that what we create has value for us, even if to someone else it's trash. My older sister lives in Seattle, and my younger sister, who lives close by here, has been out there visiting this week. And there's an artist, I believe his name is Thomas Dunbo, I think I said that right, who has created these large trolls from trash. And it's a public art exhibit, and the trolls are traveling through various cities. So my sisters went on a hunt to find the trolls, and they've been sending me pictures of these trolls that look to be 15 and 20 feet tall because they're standing in front of them and they're tiny. And, so here he's taken what is trash to one person and created a work of art and beauty that has value and meaning and is bringing joy to people. And so I think the other thing to live and play from our heart means we have to recognize that what has value to us may be somebody else just trash.
I'm thinking two things. First of all, I'm thinking of the Burnt Food Museum, which is, but it's different from the trolls. So the Burnt Food Museum is literally burnt food, but it's simply the way that it's displayed that makes it into a museum, or that lets people into seeing it. And it's also funny. And I was just thinking about the difference, because so that's just taking a piece of something someone would think of as trash and being able to see its intrinsic charm, beauty, humor, all of that. But what this person did was took garbage and created it into something that has absolute value. I don't know what absolute value, but so in the Museum of Burnt Food, it's just a conceptual, it's a conceptual shift or conceptual transformation. And in his case, it is a physical transformation.
Right.
And what I love about both of them, what I love about the thing that you described about the trolls, is that it's making me think like, oh, so no matter what even if every negative thing that I think of myself is true, it doesn't mean that I cannot be, as a human, something that has humor and something that that people would go looking for.
Right. And the perceptual transformation happened before the physical. And I think this is part of what does it take to live and play from the heart is our perception of the value of that which is innate to us has to shift in order for us to be willing to do the practice, to gain the functionality, to have fluency, to have freedom, flexibility. There was one other F in there, I forget. We have to have that perception. And I think that to begin to realize that, so it's beautiful to me. I mean, this is when my harp playing is the loveliest to my own ear, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I sit down by myself and I don't think that there's anybody around, and I let myself be with the experience of playing, whether it's a traditional Irish tune that I know or whether it is improvising, whatever it is. It's when I let myself really be with it, And the minute I move out of that state of valuing being with my heart, with my full self, then all kinds of obstacles will emerge.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking, and I was also thinking, I wish I hadn't said while you were talking, because I loved what you were saying, and now that is on the video. But anyway, that's whatever. For some reason, it reminds me of, I've been observing, people want to improvise, and they use this structure that I give them, and they experience the freedom. And I notice that something happens that what they have the freedom, it feels really great. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to add a new thing in. And not just them. I see myself do this. I'm struggling with something. I finally get it. As soon as I get basic functionality, not fluency or flexibility, as soon as I get it, now I want to do this, so that I'm constantly keeping myself from being in a position of being able to be fluent and flexible in my performance.
Right.
I put myself right back into basic functionality, and I keep doing it, and I want to hear what Victoria says, because she just jumped in, but I want to hear what you said about that.
Well, I think it's again that we have to be able to lift the 5 or 10 pound weight before we can lift the 20 pound weight. And again, maybe that's a bad analogy, but I think that building fluency, I started doing push-ups back in January, and I've never really been able to do push-ups or chin-ups, but I decided I was going to do that to build body strength. Well, it's, taken me several months, but I can now actually do a real, and sometimes more than one or two, but not always, legitimate push-up, not a modified one, but a real push-up. But it's taken that willingness to just do what I could do and let that be enough. And I think that's what you're talking about with functionality. No, I'm not. I got it wrong.
It's okay. They're two different things. I mean, because when you said you have to pull up a 10 pound weight, and I'm sorry, Victoria, brought you up, put you down, because we're going to duke this out. When you said you have to pull a 10 pound weight to pull a 20 pound weight, I was like, stop. No. I mean, yes, but why are you doing a 10 pound weight? You haven't even looked at what you can do with a 10 pound weight. When you can lift it up, then you can start twirling it around. Then you can make a thing out of it. Like, there's so much you can do with a 10 pound weight. Why are you going on to 20? I mean, I get why, but it depends. And you know what? I think you just uncovered the difference between learning and strength and creativity. Because when you go to the gym, you're not going to the gym for creativity. And when you go through the little machine that I made, you are going for creativity by limiting the possibilities. You're now in, like, okay, what are the possibilities with this thing that you've been given? So if somebody said you will never have anything other than this 10 pound weight, I'm going to be doing many things with that 10 pound weight that are not putting in a 20 pound weight. So it's I really appreciate you helping me see the difference between, and I don't know if this is it, between growth and learning and creativity. and performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that creativity and performance and performability or musicality are not strength building things. There's something about opening something up, unlocking something versus building something. I think, I don't know, I want to look more at that.
Yeah.
And maybe what Victoria says will, Brene Brown said in her book, Atlas of the Heart, that shame and perfectionism are places we go when we fall short in our minds, I imagine. Shame is the fear disconnection. So it makes sense that we could all feel shame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious if anybody doesn't and what that would be like. Would that person be marvelous or like, her definition of shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love, belonging, and connection. Right, which I suspect, I know that like the heart of addiction is, that you're not connected. I'm not an expert on that, but I know that connection and addiction are very connected. So connection could be our antidote to shame and many, many other things. And then, and then there's all that, well, what are you going to get connected to? Sometimes when you're connected to a society or, some new social thing, it's not fun. It's worse. Okay, for a recluse, what do you call it? The person who's both a recluse and like really friendly, like a dog, is like whatever that is, because that seems to be what I am. A garrulous recluse or something. Because then you go out, you go do this thing, and then you're just like, oh, ick. And then you're like, I'd rather just be at home, making stuff up. Sorry. Okay. Kathleen, back to you. I love to just be able to like give it to you. Okay, you put yourself in a hole here. Give it back to Kathleen.
Yeah, well, I would add that I often think of shame as the feeling of that we're innately bad to the core. And so I think when it comes to living from the heart and playing from the heart, if we believe that our heart, our core, if we're going to use heart as a metaphor, is bad, then we're going to try to move away from it. And I think this is the difference between guilt and shame in my mind. And I think the psychological distinction most of the time, but people have different definitions, is shame means we're bad. Guilt is the behavior I engaged in was bad. There's a distinction there between whether it's one's core that's bad or essence or the behavior. And, there is, and it's interesting what you're saying, Deborah, about there's a difference between learning and growth and creativity and performance. I mean, that's probably more than we can unpack in this, what time we have left. But what I also want to say is I think they intertwine. Somehow they are interconnected, and that you are right. If all I ever had were 10-pound weights, then I could do a lot of things with 10-pound weights. And that would be like what you're saying, what you're trying to say to people is what you have already, what you can do technically, what you understand theory-wise, what you is enough. You can be creative with that. And then the going on to more weights is like the person who says, okay, I do feel flexible and fluid and I'm creative in that. And now I'm bored and I want something else. I want to add something more to that. I want to increase my technical skill, or I want whatever, so I think that maybe what we're trying to circumambulate is how can we spend more time feeling like what we have and where we are is of value and does have creative performability, while at the same time we do pursue whatever we have energy to learn and how we want to grow. That the wanting to learn and grow doesn't mean that that what we have isn't enough or doesn't have value for creativity and sharing?
Well, I think as you were talking, two things came to me. One was I saw myself as a kid playing the uke, and then at a certain point, I was given a baritone uke, and at a certain time, I was given a tenor guitar. So it's the same instrument, but it's a larger version of it. So I kind of got the model of the world that, oh, as a person gets bigger, you can get a bigger version of the thing that you were just doing to play. So that was great about just being in a bigger world. But the words that came to me as you were speaking is something from Strings of Passion, which is, I think it's string 5 or 4 or something, which is practice, the string of practice, and the differentiation between practicing and taking on a practice. And there's something, I think creativity is often unlocked within taking on a practice. As you do something simple, whatever it is, the thing that you can do, as you do the thing that you can do, something gets unlocked, something else gets unlocked, and something else gets unlocked. And one of the things I love about that class is that you don't know what's going to get unlocked. And I know they say in 12 steps, sometimes you polish over here and it shines over there. And a perfect example of that is something I'd always wanted to do, is learn to brush my teeth with my left hand. Why don't someone told me about that when I was like 26 or something. I always tried to do it, whatever, 3,500 years later, I'm like, wow, I'm going to do that. So I started doing it. And it's interesting. I get better at brushing my teeth. But then one day I'm doing something on the harp, and the people in the academy are like, oh, wow. So the brushing your teeth with your left hand, it's really helping you do the levers faster. And I'm like, well, oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't know why I was getting more fluent with it, but suddenly my left hand was much more fluent in everything, tiny little ways and ways that actually have an impact on me. And so there's something about taking on a practice. And I think I was super lucky when I started playing the harp that I had to make a living. I got a way to make a living by playing in restaurants, dining rooms and stuff. So I was doing the same thing over and over and over again in a very functional way. And it began to open new things and open new pathways and allow me musicality and allow me to resolve problems in the moment of, something falling or whatever it was. And it can be very hard to take on a practice ourselves outside of if we need to do it. But I think part of what you're doing and what I'm doing is creating an environment in which we give a community a place to do it and a way to do it.
And to take away that the practice is something that's being imposed from the outside, but that the practice is a structure to move toward the desire you have. That makes all the difference in the world when we take on a practice because our heart wants what the practice can take us to.
Okay, and I know we can't talk about this because we only have a couple more minutes, but so as you know, I struggle with social media, and I just got some fluency a few weeks ago, was posting some cool stuff, and boom, my Instagram account got hacked. It's hacked. I can't get into it. So this dichotomy of doing something that we think has value, and then the minute we do it, we're like, wait a minute, that wasn't good enough. So I found myself, I had some kind of reprieve at that moment where I started doing things and releasing them, and doing things and having fun and releasing them, being myself and releasing it. Anyway, but that I don't know, that I'd like to talk about that at some point where we get freedom, we start expressing that freedom, something happens, and it triggers shame, and then
it's all of those externally. Angela Sarian used to say, whenever we compare or compete, we cut ourselves in half. And I think that is just something that our culture so promotes, is comparing and competing. And unfortunately, sometimes all of the programs that are available to get us on this social media or to do that app or whatever, somehow give us this thing that we then start to compare ourselves to. And so then we cut ourselves in half and we don't have the energy to keep moving forward. I do the best with social media posting when I just do it and put it out there and let it go. I don't look at it. I don't worry about it. I just put it out there and let it go. And, and the minute that I start trying to figure it all out and feel like it's something, I get stuck. And so I think there's something about finding our way, and this comes back to living and playing from our own heart,
Right.
that, okay, this is who I am and how I can engage with this. And no, it's not what this coach says or that media guru says or whatever, but doesn't matter if it has heart for me, and the engagement of doing it with myself and feedback that comes to me from people who watch it energizes me. Doesn't matter if it doesn't fit.
That's really interesting. I mean, that's really interesting. That is worth experiment. That's a worthy experiment.
Yeah.
Me interested in thinking, okay, how do you do this with the skills you have, taking on that commitment to play from the heart?
Yeah.
Play and live from the heart, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And that being the only thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking that on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's what I will do. And I know we're ending, and I want to thank Tovala. Thank you for saying that my ums in the middle. I just, sometimes I go back and listen to this and I want to pull out a part of something that Kathleen is saying or I'm saying, and the other of us is like, oh yeah, in the middle of it. And so that I'm thinking, like, be quiet, Deborah, and just listen. Thank you, Kathleen. It's so fun to have you back. And this conversation, it's just such a joy for it to continue through all these years and to be able to then have the conversation. I'm pointing over here to the chat, have you all as well with us. It just, it helps me to feel not alone in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you too. Yeah.
And so will I see you next week?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll